Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Local leaders gather for National Day of Prayer in Kingston. Opposition outlines plans for growth in the agricultural sector. And later in sports, CASAFA responds to General Secretary's resignation. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sandy Williams. Here are the details. Hundreds are now gathered at the National Arena for the National Day of Prayer. The event, in its 19th staging, is being held under the theme, The Hour of Decision. Our reporter Kelisha Williams is there and filed this report.
It's been a morning of worship and compelling speeches here at the National Arena for the National Day of Prayer. It has been so intense that even as we speak, you can see a group of people gathered here, and they're attending to a young lady who fainted a few minutes ago. I will try to find out what's happening here, but this morning there have been hundreds of people packed inside the National Arena, and I was also told that 57 churches right across the island have joined together for the National Day of Prayer. Now, this is the 19th staging and the 9th time it's being held inside the National Arena. On other occasions, it was held in St. Catherine. The sessions here began around 7 a.m. this morning. Among the highlights were Prime Minister Andrew Holness, as well as opposition leader Mark Golding, and they touched on topics appealing for a crime-free nation, for unity and peace in the island. And I'll have the full details on their speeches this evening at 7. Now, hours earlier, I spoke with the Chief Coordinator for the session today, Dr. Delford Davis, and he said he was impressed by the speeches and the proceedings this morning, but he has appealed for our leaders to seek God as they address the social, financial, and spiritual issues plaguing the country. The session here will continue until 3 p.m. this evening, and I'll have more details in primetime news at 7. Reporting from the National Arena, I'm Kelisha Williams for TVJ News.
Thanks, Kelisha. The body of a female discovered on Sunday, January 5, in Devon Pen, St. Mary, has been identified. The deceased is 16-year-old Jadane Gale, also known as Big Red, of Sligo Road in Mountain View, St. Andrew. She was identified by her mother, who viewed photographs of the victim. The police have since singled out Mr. Gale's boyfriend, 39-year-old Labed Carr, also known as Chubby, a person of interest in the case. He has been taken in for questioning, and investigators are currently processing his residence. Defense attorney Peter Champagny KC is calling for greater public awareness in relation to sexual offences. Mr. Champagny made the call on Tuesday during the opening of the Hillary term of Home Circuit Court. Data prepared by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions showed that 363 sexual offense-related cases are listed for the Hillary term, including 25 new cases. Rape accounted for 164 of the listed cases, while 156 were in relation to having sexual intercourse with a person under 16. Acting DPP Claudette Thompson, while calling for greater focus on the sexual offense cases, stressed that in many of those matters, the complainants are children. And Mr. Champagny, who was speaking on behalf of the Jamaican Bar Association, pointed out that the high number of recurring sexual offense cases is a serious concern. Mr. Champagny believes there needs to be more public awareness to encourage people to report cases and suspected cases of abuse. The People's National Party has put forward some suggestions on how to improve the local agriculture sector. The idea comes as the sector continues to struggle post-Hurricane Beryl. O'Shane Masters reports.
The opposition wants the politicization of the agriculture sector to stop. Shadow spokesman for the sector, Dr. Dayton Campbell, says this is important if there is to be any significant growth in the sector. His call follows the July to September quarter economic review by the PIOJ, which shows that the agriculture sector declined by 13.5%.
If you get RADA to function and stop being a political arm of a party, but to actually function as a farming entity that is interested in developing agriculture, then you would be able to have better extension services. You'll be able to have better land preparation.
Dr. Campbell also wants a special fund to be set up, which will benefit the country's agricultural sector. He's suggesting that a tax be placed on imported agricultural produce and those funds be used to establish what he calls the Agricultural Fund.
Agriculture has to be a priority, and there has to be a dedicated fund that is able to respond to the needs and to build out the sector.
The opposition spokesman on agriculture says the process to get land for farming is often too cumbersome.
If I have the business plan and I have the market for it, why can't I get the funding to go ahead and do it? And then when I sell the produce, you take back out of your money out of the profit that I have made. And that's what we intend to do.
In the meantime, to sustain the local agriculture sector, he says the next PNP government will remove a number of agricultural produce from the importation list. These include vegetables, onion and Irish potatoes.
I watched last year as people in St. Elizabeth reap their onions and watch them rot and couldn't get market for it, whilst other persons were getting importation permit to support farmers in another country to bring their onion here. That will not happen under my watch. Me have ambition and we have pride and we are alone them.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Councillor for the Morants Bay Division, Rosemary Shaw, is calling for the Needham Main Road in St. Thomas to be added to the list of roads set to benefit under the government's road rehabilitation programs. She says it has been more than 16 years since the thoroughfare was last given attention and is now in a state of disrepair.
This Needham Pen Road is a very important road to Eastern St. Thomas because it's a farming community where people sell their produce. Some of the people, the farmers, go to Kingston and sell their produce, and they sell it in the Morant Bay market. So this is a very, very important road. It is a part of feeding the nation. This road needs total rehabilitation. And I hear the Member of Parliament talking about Spark programs and all the other programs and what have you. And Needham Pen Road should be on one of these programs. I am really surprised when I checked the road, the work on the road, and check the listing as to what is on the Spark program. And Needham Pen Road is not on the Spark program, and I am very, very disappointed about that.
And in response, Morants Bay's Mayor, Louis Chin, says work will be done on the Needham Road as part of an emergency repair program being spearheaded by the municipal corporation. And it's now time for a break, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News and thanks for staying with us. Member of Parliament for South East Clarendon, Pernell Charles Jr., is advocating for the I Am Able campaign in his constituency to become a national initiative. This as part of efforts to foster greater inclusion and empowerment for persons living with disabilities. More in this report.
If they can make it, despite the challenges, you certainly can make it.
A declaration of hope and empowerment for people living with disabilities in South East Clarendon by Member of Parliament Pernell Charles Jr. Through his Joyful Hearts outreach program, more than 800 individuals recently experienced a transformative wave of support and care. For the visually impaired, they may live in physical darkness, but their spirits were brightened by the heartwarming initiative.
In my constituency, which is one of the largest in the country, I have noted that we have a large population here of seniors, of persons with disabilities. You saw all of our visually impaired and blind who were showing their skills in showing that they can identify the different bills And we have several persons who need help, several vulnerable families. So it was really good to be able to pull them together, hundreds of them into one space, so they could get to see and feel the energy, not just come and pick up a package.
Among the beneficiaries is Juliet Young, president of the Society for the Blind, whose gratitude shines as she reflects on the rare kindness extended to people like her.
When you go on the street, people tend to put shove us aside. You don't recognize if we go to the bank or we even going to the fast food place, nobody see us. They figure that we are not a part of society.
Her story, though, is not unique. After losing his sight in 2022, this man was cast aside by his former employer. His tale is just a stark reminder of the injustices many people living with disabilities endure.
I feel good to be a part of the community of elderly people and disabled people, but me not feel good to be to have no form of disability, but I have it, so I have to just work with it.
The government has been working to create a more inclusive society for persons with disabilities. The Disabilities Act, which came into effect in February 2022, aims to safeguard their rights and foster equal opportunities. New banknotes equipped with tactile features have also been introduced to facilitate independence for the visually impaired.
The money have the symbol, the $50, the $1,000, the $500, the $2,000 bill and the $5,000 bill. I don't have a problem with the money, but there's a symbol at the bottom right-hand corner.
For MP Charles Jr., the outreach program was not only a way to uplift spirits, but also an opportunity to engage directly with his constituents and better understand their needs.
We now have their information and we'll be in a better position to help them in the future as well. So today was an important day for also updating information in the constituency to see exactly where persons are, how can we contact them, and to ensure that we know what the circumstances are and we can define the best solution for them.
He's also advocating for the I Am Able campaign to become a national initiative. And it's now time for the Business Minute. Here's Oshane Masters.
The main index of the Jamaica Stock Exchange climbed by 3% last year. Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, says market capitalization stood at $2.10 trillion, or 63.85% of GDP last year. This despite the negative effects of the high interest rate regime on stock prices. Dr. Street Forrest says she expects the positive momentum to continue and strengthen if commercial banks reduce their lending rates. Further afield, Japan's consumer sentiment deteriorated in December, casting doubt on the central bank's view that solid household spending will underpin the economy and justify a rise in interest rates. The results precede the Bank of Japan's policy meeting slated for January 23 to 24, when some analysts anticipate a potential interest rate increase from the current 0.25%. Now, according to a survey by Japan's Cabinet Office, the index measuring consumer sentiment fell to 36.2 in December, a 0.2% drop from the previous month. For the Business Minute, I'm Oshane Masters.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In this evening's health report, we look at stroke and medications.
So, first of all, when you've had a stroke, there's an acute period which management has to be done to make sure you're medically stable and so on. And as early as possible, it's recommended that you do some form of neurorehabilitative therapy, which would include physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, neuropsychology, assessments and treatment as necessary. And so this rehabilitation basically has to start early. We try to take advantage of the brain being very plastic at this point and ready to relearn things.
That's the health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Take your medications, drink plenty of water, exercise, and eat a balanced meal.
And now here's our top regional and international stories.
The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, has reiterated a call for countries not to repatriate Haitians to their homeland. The UN Human Rights Office reported that at least 5,601 people were killed in Haiti last year. The killings were as a result of gang violence, an increase of over 1,000 on the total killing for 2023. It said a further 2,212 people were injured and 1,494 kidnapped. In one of the most deadly and shocking incidents in 2024, at least 207 people were killed in early December in a massacre orchestrated by the leader of the powerful Wharf Jeremy gang. More than 120 people have been killed and 188 others were injured after a powerful earthquake struck a remote region of Tibet Tuesday morning. Tremors were also felt across the Himalayas in neighboring Nepal, Bhutan, and parts of northern India. According to the United States Geological Survey, the 7.1 magnitude quake struck at a depth of 10 kilometers and was followed by multiple aftershocks. More than 3,600 houses were damaged. The Palisades fire has expanded rapidly over the past few hours, destroying homes and prompting evacuation warnings for tens of thousands of people from Malibu to Santa Monica. Many were forced to abandon cars in the area that is again at the center of a large blaze following December's Franklin fire. With traffic slowing evacuations and flames jumping the highway, some had to also consider sheltering on the beach. 2 other fires have also erupted in Los Angeles County. Raquel Porter, TVJ News.
We head to a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.